keys to innovation, right? I mean, the whole purpose is that you want people to continue creating new works and coming up with new things. At the same time, if they spend the time and the money doing that and the creativity doing that, you want them to be able to be rewarded for a period of time with a monopoly over the work. There will always be some form of copyright with respect to musical work. Whether and to what extent the laws will change in order to protect the copyright owners from consumers sharing them or from counterfeiting, or to allow, when services utilize those works, to pay a fair rate for them. That's always going to be evolving based on the nature of the technology.
There's nothing left, baby. I was born this way. Easy go. Think I forgot to say I'm gonna stop. Dance until the world.
Deadlines and things make you creative, but opportunity and telling yourself, oh, you got all the time in the world, all the money in the world, you got all the colors in the palette you want, anything you want. I mean, that just kills creativity. What's going to happen? You're going to go out and do just this boring arena set or something. So that's why all those things have always been a big component of the White Stripes. Constriction to force ourselves to create. Only having red, white, and black colors on any of the artwork or the presentation or the aesthetics of the band, and guitar, drums, and vocals. Storytelling, melody, and rhythm, revolving all these things around the number 3. All these components force us to create.
I'm not talking about nor justifying people taking other people's content in wholesale and distributing it without the permission of the copyright owner. I'm talking about people taking and recreating, using other people's content, using digital technologies to say things differently. Now, the importance of this is not the technique that you've seen here. Because, of course, every technique that you've seen here is something that television and film producers have been able to do for the last 50 years. The importance is that that technique has been democratized. It is now anybody with access to a $1,500 computer who can take sounds and images from the culture around us and use it to say things differently. These tools of creativity have become tools of speech. It is a literacy for this generation. This is how our kids speak. It is how our kids think. It is what your kids are as they increasingly understand digital technologies and their relationship to themselves. Now, in response to this new use of culture using digital technologies, the law has not greeted this Sousa revival with very much common sense. Instead, the architecture of copyright law and the architecture of digital technologies as they interact have produced the presumption that these activities are illegal. Because if copyright law at its core regulates something called copies, then in a digital world, the one fact we can't escape is that every single use of culture produces a copy.
As sampling became more popular, they developed a way to get licenses from the person or the copyright holder whose work that you're sampling. So when you do sample, again, if you're just kind of sampling for your own personal use, you're just kind of building songs or whatever on your own. That's one thing. But when you start talking about someone going into a recording studio with a record contract and developing their own works based on a whole bunch of samples of people who came before them, there's a licensing regime that exists behind that, and you pay a fee for using someone else's work. And it took a while to get there, and there were some cases that had to be litigated, going back several years now, about whether sampling was small enough and whether the little pieces of the music was short enough that it was fair use.
When I use them, as long as I use them for non-commercial uses, I'm usually fine, and I really won't face any legal issues. And I can thank that to the Fair Use Act, to that Copyright Act that allows me and other similar mashup artists and remix and producers to use sampled material, copyrighted sampled material, without facing any legal action, as long as it's within boundaries or within limitations.
If Congress Congress doesn't keep at least enough, strength in the copyright laws to make it worthwhile for people to create new works and put them out there in the market and are able to economically benefit from doing so for a long enough period of time as it gets widely disseminated, I think people will spend less time, being creative. I mean, you already see record companies, being far less profitable.
That artist choice is the key for new technology having an opportunity to be open for business. And we need to build artist choice here if these new technologies are to have that opportunity. But let me end with something I think much more important in business. It's the point about how this connects to our kids. We have to recognize they are different from us. This is us, right? We made mixed tapes, they remix music. We watched TV, they make TV. It is technology that has made them different. And as we see what this technology can do, we need to recognize you can't kill the instinct the technology produces. We can only criminalize it. We can't stop our kids from using it. We can only drive it underground. We can't make our kids passive again. We can only make them, quote, pirates. And is that good? We live in this weird time, this kind of age of prohibitions, where in many areas of our life, we live life constantly against the law. Ordinary people live life against the law, and that's what we are doing to our kids. They live life knowing they live it against the law. That realization is extraordinarily corrosive, extraordinarily corrupting, and in a democracy, we ought to be able to do better at least for them, if not for opening for business. Thank you very much.